your stupid world with Ed the Son.
Ted Cruz, asshole? Yes, not even a question. Ted Cruz, evil vote thief? Maybe. We'll get to that in a minute. One of the first signs that second-place finisher Donald Trump's candidacy wasn't being taken as seriously by Iowans came through social media, where on Trump's beloved Twitter, the third highest trending comment about him was, "Why is Donald Trump so orange?" And the day before that, Adele became the most recent in a series of musical performers demanding that Trump stop using their music for his campaign. Ironically, one of the Adele songs Trump had been using? Skyfall. And then came the voting. Donald Trump arrived in Iowa full of hope. Here we have a video of him greeting his supporters on his way into town. But the party didn't last because when the votes were counted, Donald had been trumped. Yeah, how many crappy little newspapers you think went with that title? And immediately after he lost to Ted Cruz in Iowa, Donald Trump's supporters reacted by emulating their hero, looking for someone to blame. The narrative from the Trump camp went like this. It's not possible for Trump to have lost, so there must have been trickery involved. This is the same logic applied by scientists to the Bluff Creek footage. The first conspiracy theory, it was Microsoft that altered the results to give Trump's votes to Rubio, because Microsoft is Rubio's second highest donor, and the company provided software that reported results to their respective parties in real time. But this only replaced phone calls, not ballots, and the vote results were tabulated by human poll clerks. Discrepancies would have been easily caught. And to say that Microsoft is Rubio's second highest donor only holds if you add the corporate donations together with the small donations made by people who happen to be employees of Microsoft. Verdict? Batshit insane. But the second accusation of dirty tricks, centering on Cruz, may have more merit. But that isn't saying much. During the voting, a Cruz supporter spread the rumor that Ben Carson was dropping out, the theory being that this drove Carson's base evangelicals to support Cruz. This was explained as an error by a Cruz campaign worker who said he saw that information on CNN, which is kind of a fishy story because why would a Cruz campaign worker be watching CNN? Cruz made a statement dismissing the Carson rumor, but not so quickly that the rumor didn't have time to affect the votes of some Carson supporters. But that's not saying that it did. Carson didn't have the numbers to explain Cruz's total. Not every one of Carson's supporters would have heard the rumor, nor would they all have voted for Cruz, since Rubio is also a favorite among religious voters. But the big question is, would Cruz resort to such underhanded tricks? Survey says, yes, it would be hard to find people outside of his campaign to vouch for Ted Cruz's character. Cruz is extremely unpopular in Washington, even within the Republican Party. How bad is it? Cruz can't even do a knock-knock joke because when he says knock-knock, nobody will answer. As for Dr. Ben Carson, yes, we always have to keep the doctor in there to remind us of his education and accomplishments when he opens his mouth and shit falls out. Carson vowed to stay in the race, saying he had to briefly head home to Florida between Iowa and New Hampshire to get a change of clothes, which calls into question his ability to properly pack his own luggage. But at press time, Carson is still in the race. I guess he wants to take a real good stab at it. But Trump continues to blame others for his loss, including the media, saying they didn't treat him fairly or report on his campaign correctly. For example, they failed to report that Trump had come in #1 among people who voted for him. Gone from the GOP race now is Mike Huckabee, leaving the party wondering who will get custody of Chuck Norris. Rand Paul is gone too, ceding the race for the "what the fuck is growing on your head" to Donald Trump. And no surprise, it looks like Rick Santorum has bowed out. When you're hosting your Iowa campaign party at a half-empty Pizza Ranch franchise, it's time to pack it up. However, Iowa was not a total waste for Santorum, as he was made an honorary Pizza Ranch employee, and they rustled him up his very own Pizza Ranch t-shirt, which is sadly the most valuable campaign contribution he's received in months. The lone woman Republican candidate, Carly Fiorina, finished 7th with less than 2% of the vote. But she's not given up. Despite the low numbers, her campaign manager Frank Sadler said that, "We know that Carly is going to continue to exceed expectations," which is kind of like what parents of a slow child say when their kid wears pants to school. And then there's Marco Rubio, little Marco Rubio, who made a surprisingly strong 3rd place finish, diminishing Jeb Bush's chances. It's kind of like watching a movie to see Rubio, the mentee, defeat Jeb Bush, his mentor. Remember that scene in Return of the Jedi when Vader dropped the Emperor down an air shaft? Yeah, like that. Now here's the problem Rubio is going to have to face among his religiously minded supporters. In his post-caucus speech, Rubio thanked an all-powerful and mighty God for his rise in the standings. Now, if God's mighty and powerful, why didn't he push Rubio into first place? Clearly, God has determined that Rubio belongs in third place. So how can religious voters support Rubio to take the top spot when that is very clearly against the will of God? Also, Rubio thanked an all-powerful and mighty God, not the all-powerful and mighty God. So is Rubio indicating a belief in more than one powerful and mighty God? Was he referring to Jesus? Or perhaps Zeus? Or that other powerful and mighty God, Thor? And Jeb Bush, he finished 6th with less than 3% of the vote. A harbinger of the results could be seen on social media during the day, where in Iowa the top trending topic on Jeb Bush was, what does Jeb Bush stand for? And also that one of the people tweeting that was Jeb Bush. But Bush's people say they never expected to do well in Iowa and are still alive in polling in New Hampshire and South Carolina, which sounds a lot like the Black Knight and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Just a flesh wound. On the Democratic Party side, it was a 50-50 photo finish, as Hillary Clinton took slightly more of the 50% than Bernie Sanders' 50% to claim victory. Yeah, I don't get it either. But the party was clearly split, with half for Hillary and half for Sanders, which means that 50% of Democrats are working to get the Oval Office for Hillary Clinton, and the other 50% for a Republican. Secretary Clinton's still expected to win, as voting demographics after New Hampshire are heavily in her favor, but Sanders has been making solid gains, mostly among younger voters and older Democrats who think he's the guy who used to play Mr. Hooper. And in a further attempt to connect with young voters, they asked Bernie what was on his iPod, and he answered, high, medium, low, and off. He thought they were asking about his heating pad. With New Hampshire only days away, there's much more drama to come, so stay tuned to our stupid world as we look at this stupid campaign. I'm Ed the Sock.